A strange, heavy silence floated through the night air. Silence that didn't come before a storm, but after a terrible disaster. The snow-covered German village lay in ruins. Broken rooftops, burnt walls, shattered windows, and the bitter taste of smoke drifting through the cold wind. Everything proved that the war had swallowed the soul of this place. It was on this night that 3 German women, Elsa, Mara, and Frida, dragged their exhausted feet across the frozen ground. Their clothes were torn, faces covered in grime, lips cracked from cold, and every breath burned their lungs. Far behind them came the echo of a soldier's whistle. With every shrill whistle, their hearts pounded harder, as if death itself was following them step by step. Elsa whispered through trembling lips, "Just a little more. We can hide inside the lower wine cellar. Maybe no one will find us there." The icy wind swallowed her voice, but her desperation was clear. They wanted to live. The ruins of an old vineyard loomed ahead. The 3 women slipped inside the shattered doorway. Behind a fallen wooden beam, a narrow staircase led downward into darkness. They descended slowly, breath held tight, and at the bottom they found a cold, damp cellar. The air was heavy with the smell of rotting wood, mold, and old wine. Bottles lay shattered on the floor, dust rested on every corner, and in the far shadows, broken wine barrels leaned like ghosts. But it was shelter. And shelter meant survival, even if only for a moment. Frida collapsed to her knees and began to cry. Her sobs echoed back from the stone walls, turning into hollow, haunting whispers. Elsa wrapped an arm around her, but comfort was short-lived. Within minutes, the sound of boots thundering above them shook the wooden floor. Shadows moved across the cracks in the ceiling, a harsh beam of light cut through the darkness. Mara whispered, "We have to stay quiet. If they come down here, we—" Before she could finish, the cellar door above crashed open. Flashlights stabbed into the darkness. Heavy boots descended the steps one by one. The women held their breath as the light swept across their hiding place. And stopped. There was nowhere left to run. Soldiers grabbed them, tied their hands, and dragged them out into the freezing night. The snow burned their bare skin like fire. Their cries disappeared into the howling wind. Outside, a military truck waited with its rear door open. They were shoved inside. The door slammed shut, plunging them into suffocating darkness. Only the engine's roar reminded them the world outside still existed. Hours later, the truck ground to a halt. The women were dragged out before a ruined winery building. Its scorched bricks and twisted metal beams made it look more like a graveyard than a building. Behind the ruins stood a thick iron door set into the ground. From beneath it came not the cold air of a cellar, but a suffocating wave of darkness. The soldiers unlocked it. A stairway led down into a deeper, colder void. This was no ordinary storage cellar. This was a secret interrogation bunker. Inside, the air felt heavy, almost alive with dread. Water dripped rhythmically from the ceiling. Rusted chains hung along damp stone walls. The floor was cold, uneven, and slick. Cold dust filled the air, stinging their eyes and burning their throats. Each woman was thrown into a separate stone cell. Their hands remained bound. The cold seeped straight into their bones, making their fingers numb and their teeth chatter uncontrollably. Somewhere deeper inside the bunker, a door scraped open, and a woman screamed. A long, broken scream that tore through every corridor before dissolving into dead silence. The bunker grew even darker after that. Interrogation began not with blows or whips, but something worse: silence. They were kept in pitch-black rooms where time seemed to die. No food, no water, no voices. Just the endless cold and the echo of their own fear. Slowly their minds began to crumble. Hope flickered. Strength emptied. Breath by breath, they felt themselves being swallowed by the darkness. On the 3rd day, the ground trembled beneath them. Dust rained from the ceiling. Cracks spread along the walls. In the distance, an explosion thundered through the earth. Another bombing raid had begun above ground. Soldiers cursed and yelled. Lights flickered. The bunker shook violently. Elsa pushed her cell door desperately, again and again, and suddenly, with a loud crack, it gave way. She stumbled into the corridor filled with drifting dust. Sparks burst from broken wires. Shadows danced violently on the walls. Mara and Frida found their way out of their cells too. The 3 women grabbed each other's hands and ran through the collapsing passages. Behind them, soldiers shouted, but smoke and debris muted those voices. Every few seconds, part of the ceiling fell dangerously close. The air grew thick with dust. Breathing became a battle. They reached the staircase. Their legs shook. Their lungs burned. Their clothes were torn, coated with soot and blood. As they climbed, a massive beam crashed behind them, sending a cloud of smoke into the air. When they burst out through the iron door, the freezing wind hit their faces like knives, but it was freedom. Even if it was only for a moment, even if soldiers could catch them again, even if the night outside was filled with a deadly snowstorm. It was still air, open sky, and a world away from the suffocating darkness below. Behind them, the bunker collapsed with a deafening roar. The ground shuddered. Fire and smoke shot upward like a dying monster letting out its final scream. The women ran into the forest, stumbling, crying, shivering, barely able to stand. Snow clung to their skin. Their breath came in painful bursts. But they ran through the trees, through the cold, through the agony until the distant shouts faded, swallowed by the storm. Their suffering, their pain, their struggle, none of it was recorded in history. No book mentioned their names. No monument stood for them. But deep inside their hearts, the darkness of that bunker, those screams, those walls, those chains, stayed alive forever.